Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Garena Premier League Summer 2017. We have just returned from that explosive but long first game between the Philippines Team Manila Eagles and, of course, the team from what's the last game? Yeah.
It was Team Manila Eagles versus Resurgence.
Yeah, Resurgence from Singapore. Yeah. And, of course, we'll be your shoutcasters for the next game. I'm Atlas. With me is my boy Neep. And we'll be casting the next game, Game 2, which is between Malaysia's Kuala Lumpur Hunters versus Vietnam's second seed, Young Generation.
Yeah, and I mean, despite this being the second seed of Young Generation, they are a really strong team, and I'm expecting quite a lot from both these two teams. And let's take a quick look at the schedule. Followed by this game, we will be having Headhunters versus Resurgence. Resurgence currently 0-1. Will they be able to make the comeback? And then followed by TME versus Young Generation versus H2, H2 versus TME versus KHL, and KHL versus Resurgence, the Singapore-Malaysian rivalry at the very end.
Of course, that is going to be the rivalry, but for now, we will be having the game between Malaysia and the second seed of Vietnam, a very new face to the GPL we have for now. But I'm expecting them to actually bring a lot to the table. The biggest thing to consider is that Gigabyte Marines, the first seed for Vietnam, actually swept them in their finals.
Yeah, it wasn't even close, and they even had Archie rotate to the mid lane for the very final game. Yeah, no Optimus in that last game. So
a stop.
It's either Young Generation not performing that well, or Gigabyte Marines are just on a completely different level.
A completely different level might be the case here. YG would not be second seed for a strong region like Vietnam if they weren't strong. As for KLH, they have a few new faces, but it seems like Veki will be their AD carry for this GPL, coming back from the LMS. Very respected face within Southeast Asia. So we have to see how well he actually performs here, because he shifted from a jungle role to an AD carry one.
I believe it was actually from mid to support to AD carry. So he was a support player when he was on Hong Kong Esports. Back when he was on KLH, he was a mid laner, and now he's playing as the AD carry.
So that's going to be Veki on the AD carry role there for YG. Let's look at her bans. Also tanks here. And the Jana, he is quite strong in 7.16, as well as KLH banning out. Still, all of these tanks being banned out in this meta. YG locking in the pressure of the early game with the Rek'Sai, as well as the Lovers bot lane with the Rakan and the Zaya.
Yeah,
as for Kuala Lumpur Hunters, it's going to be the Jarvan, Sejuani, and Braum. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it looks very standard so far. What's interesting to me is the first priority for Young Generation on the Rek'Sai. Not something you usually see as the very first pick, but maybe it's a regional thing where this Vietnamese team likes to prioritize this Rek'Sai. Taking a look at the second wave of bans, we see the LeBlanc banned away. And let's see what YG is going to ban out. I'd probably start banning out some of the AD carries, taking some favorable matchups away.
Because I think Kalista might be contested for this one. Rather, a good pick for KLH, because they have 3 frontliners as well as the Braum right there. Just send the Braum in, follow it up with the Sejuani, and that might actually be their pickup. As for YG, they're banning out Kog'Maw from Veki, and as KLH banning out the Lucian and the LeBlanc from Naul.
Yeah, and let's see what they decide to finish it off with. The Varus is something that Veki does like to hover over. It's one of his comfort picks in this AD carry position. We might see him pick it up. Tristana is an option, and I like that Orianna lock-in. Really safe mid laner to take away from this Young Generation team. There are a couple options. They can take the Corki. Corki still available. Decent matchup against this Orianna. Cassiopeia, okay, there it is. That's also a very safe, very safe mid lane matchup. Very common in this 7.16 meta, and that will be locked in.
They're gonna need some damage coming from Veki for this one to just top off all the utility and tankiness that KLH has. As for YG, they'll be putting a very strong pick on the top lane. Good for either the Sejuani or the Jarvan. It's going to be the Renekton lock in for Ren here. As for KLH, what will their AD carry pick be?
Let's see, do they want to opt for a hyper carry? Because they are set up in a way where a hyper carry could shine here. I can't really think of many hyper carries still available. Tristana might be an option. Another option could be Jinx, but that's a bit far out of there, far out of the meta, and it looks like it will indeed be the Tristana for Veki.
Tristana for Veki will need a little bit of... It was a very strong early game, tapers off in the mid game, and then just surges through in the late game. So that will be their pickup for this one, and they have a lot of measures to actually protect Veki here on the Tristana. As for KLH, the rest of their composition here. Very, very tanky. The Braum and Sejuani combo is just so potent, combined with the Cataclysm and the Glacial Fissure to just control the battlefield. As for YG, very strong team fighting overall in terms of damage spread out very, very well, as well as the engage coming from Palette and the rest of the squad.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see, and my eyes are on this bottom lane of both KLH and Young Generation. Big Koro and Palette have shown to be a pretty strong bottom lane in their respective series back in Vietnam. So against Becky and against Bipolar, I'm really interested to see how this is going to pan out. I feel like this is going to dictate the pace of the game. Whoever's bottom lane comes out on top might determine who's going to win this game.
Definitely, it's going to be very important to actually, for the junglers to path around and center their gameplay around those bot laners. So they will have to be very careful in how they play around, because one mistake will actually put a bot lane in such a huge deficit, because in a bot lane, there's 2 laners. So if you screw up, that's possibly 600 gold to a carry, and that will put you so behind in terms of the itemization and the experience.
Yeah, and I mean, both of these AD carries as well have just such a big potential to pop off. The Tristana and the Saya both really strong in these mid-game, late-game scenarios, so something that both teams need to be wary of. And I feel like it's also going to be very dependent on these junglers, because they dictate the pace of the early game, and we have Caspiel on this jungler side. He's a pretty solid jungler. Last performance in GPL during the spring, he was very strong. So is he going to maintain that level of performance we saw almost half a year ago? I'm not sure. Meanwhile, Young Generation, as their name implies, they are young. This is their first time in the GPL. So
there's going to be a lot of pressure that the rest of KLH is going to put through. Caspiel is such an aggressive jungler, and I expect him to constantly pressure YG. As for Becky, he's been in the Southeast Asian scene for quite a long time, and I expect him to actually bring a lot to the table, because what KLH was kind of lacking in the previous GPL was direction, was shot calling. And Becky, I think, has that leader potential to just pull through for Kuala Lumpur Hunters.
Yeah, it was actually incredible last GPL to see how far KLH managed to go without Becky. When Becky left KLH at the very beginning of the year, a lot of people were shocked. A lot of people thought that KLH would start to struggle, but they proved the opposite. Our-Hedge did a really good job of transitioning from the support position to the mid lane. Bipolar, of course, a really good pickup, and Caspiel managed to hold his own. And we can't forget Shiro. Shiro did a really good job in the top lane, and he's on his comfort pick in this game. It's going to be the Jarvan-Renekton matchup, I believe, and something that Shiro is very familiar with, but we can't count out Young Generation, as this could be their game.
So we have here game 2 we have for today. For game 1, for day 1 of the Garena Premier League Summer 2017 is Vietnam second seed YG Young Generation versus Malaysia's Kuala Lumpur Hunters, or KLH. We'll see how they play out their level 1s.
Yeah, so far it looks very standard right now. No invades coming out. We will see the Raptor start coming in from Caspiel, and let's see how it goes. I'm not sure where they're going to prioritize. It looks like from this top lane start, they might be putting a bit more priority on the bottom lane, but these junglers aren't. These junglers, I'd say, aren't exactly the best junglers in this early game. Rek'Sai does have potential with the...
Lots of pressure.
Yeah, lots of
being
pressure.
Being able to just mobilize around the map very quickly.
However, Sejuani, though, you kind of really want to wait for your level 6 before you start putting down that heavy pressure in regards to ganking.
But if once you do actually gank, it's going to be very, very potent with how much CC you can lock down. Palette and Big Koro really aggressive against this KLH blue side start. But it seems like there's a little bit of pressure, a little bit of harassment, but Caspiel will still get his blue buff.
Yeah, and this is something we've been seeing almost every single game of the GPL so far. I know it's only been one game, but we've seen the bottom lane come towards the blue buff and start contesting it and just try to prevent them from taking it. And I think as the GPL progresses, a lot of teams are going to start adapting to this strategy, start placing down those wards, because it seems to be very prevalent right now.
Yeah, definitely. Seeing as a lot of these junglers may be tanky, and so their early game isn't the best in terms of contesting buffs. The thing is, when you're on blue side, you have a much better pathing towards the bot lane when you're on blue side compared to the ones who are leashing for the blue buff.
Yeah, of course. And let's see if it's going to be enough to slow down this Sejuani, as Sejuani has already finished his red buff, making his way, actually hasn't started the red buff just yet, taking the extra precautions to make sure he spots out the Rek'Sai, but the Rek'Sai not even near the vicinity, and is just taking the Scuttle Crab in that bottom lane.
Give them a little bit of control down there on the side of the river. However, it's going to be Caspiel still doing his red buff as of now. Blinking Red actually will have to smite it for the health regen. Seems like a very slow start, as you said, for this Sejuani, but it's going to be very scary once he actually reaches the proper spike, especially if he goes down their bot lane. Concussive blows plus all of those stacks for the Permafrost. It's going to be deadly.
And it's going to be really good on top of the Tristana. Tristana is probably one of the best AD carries you can have in the bottom lane to follow up on these ganks, as the rocket jump just allows you to reposition extremely quickly and extremely fast as well in regards to the cooldown, since once you reset your E, once you get a kill, the jump resets.
Explosive shot. That changed from a lot of patches ago. Really helped Tristana out when it comes to finishing off kills, especially with explosive shots. So here, they'll be pushed in against the turret for now, but and Tristana not really the best at farming under turret because of her innate pushing from her explosive shot passive, but still very well, just a wave behind Big Koro as of now.
Yeah, and I think this matchup is going as expected in the bottom lane. You see a lot of pressure being built in this bottom lane, and I think it's partially due to champion picks and partially due to just how big Koro and Palette play. They're a very aggressive bottom lane that really prioritize and emphasize establishing the laning control in this early game stages of the game.
And they really want to apply pressure so that Venus can actually make aggressive plays like that. Very patiently waiting behind the walls of the mid lane to try and gank our hedge. Of course, it didn't really pay off, but the idea is there that YG's bot lane is pushing Veki and Bipolar in enough that they cannot respond quickly to any of these ganks that Venus might be pulling out.
Yeah, and speaking of ganks, no ganks so far yet, but we do see Caspiel trying to increase the pressure a bit. He is going for the invade onto the Raptors, will not find anything, so yeah, it looks like a very slow game so far, as both these junglers haven't really interacted with each other yet. They haven't really gone for a gank yet.
Yeah, directly or indirectly, they haven't really met each other in terms of the clearing or the pathing. It seems like Venus will try to go for something topside. Really empty jungle there for Caspiel, and I don't think he will find that Shiro is an acceptable target right now for a dive. So just both of these junglers really trying to apply pressure to each other. Here, Caspiel actually gets a consolation prize in terms of the slugs. Might go for something against Big Koro. That's going to be the rocket jump in. That's going to be concussive blows as well. Permafrost will be available, but it won't actually stack up fast enough. But the Ignite will be burnt there for Bipolar, but both summoners burnt for Big Koro, which is important.
Yeah, and that's the lead that KLH was looking for. While it might have not resulted in a kill, that creates a lot of pressure in the bottom lane. Big Koro and Palette are now forced to play extremely passive now that they don't have both of their flashes gone and that heal is gone as well. And when you have so much kill pressure in regards to the Braum and the Tristana, as well as the possible gank from the Sejuani, it makes you play very aggressive. So now Rek'Sai, Venus, has to decide whether he wants to start gravitating towards his bottom lane to relieve the pressure that can be created, can be made with this advantage, or will he opt to kind of cut the map in half and focus on this top lane, focus on farming up right now. But if we take a look at the CS, he's actually falling quite behind to this jungle of Caspiel. 18 CS to 37. It might be slightly attributed to the fact that Caspiel has been able to take the Krugs.
Yeah, he got both Krug camps, so that's 20 CS in total if you add up all the big Krugs and the small Krugs. So that might be the disparity. You'd have to look actually at the gold to see for sure. But right now, Caspiel and Venus still not meeting each other at all, but they have an idea that Sejuani, Caspiel, is right around there on the top side because of a very nicely placed set of wards there for the top side jungle coming from YG. Look at that. A Bermuda triangle of wards in that red side jungle of Caspiel, plus an aggressive vision ward, control ward rather, to try and catch him out indefinitely, because I don't think that junglers go into that rush a lot.
Yeah, for sure. That ward is going to be there for quite some time now, and this is extremely important, I think, when you're playing against these slower jungle matchups in the early game. Whoever gets their green jungle item first, whoever can get those early jungle wards down, really dictates the pace of the early game jungle. And as once you see the jungler not in that side of the map, you can either assume they're on the other side of the map or they're in your own jungle, and that shuts down a lot of gank paths and allows your laners to just play a lot more aggressive than they would have if those wards weren't there.
Yeah, jungling is really an information war, especially in this game in particular that is very, very slow. And Caspiel and Venus trying to look for each other, and any sort of information they can glean on to look at the position of the opposing jungler is a lot of information for your laners, for yourself. And right now, this is causing the game to really slow down in terms that they are either really gauging how aggressive they can go, or they are quite afraid that they won't that they don't have their jungler in time for a gank.
Yeah, and I don't see this game speeding up anytime soon, as if you take a look at what dragon is on the map, it is a Cloud Drake, so not that much high priority in terms of securing it in this early game. So I think both teams are content with just farming up, securing their items, and possibly trying to make a play in the mid game. But Caspiel going on the aggressive, he can do this tower dive really well.
But Pallet and Big Coro do know that he is there in the vicinity from the ward and the Fry Brush from earlier, but it seems like they will cut their losses and just back off from that bot lane.
It looks like it might be a possible tower trade as they have committed in this bottom lane. The rocket jump will be committed. Feather Storm.
Okay, that's going to be the Feather Storm actually taken out, pushes Caspiel away, but this is still the rest of KLH pushing this bot lane. That is going to be the trade-off. No opportunity to use the Delicious Prison there, but Venus fighting it out with Shiro a little bit. Very dangerous considering that Ren is right around the corner. They have to be careful. Caspiel actually down to critical health. Will have to be careful and wary of any burst that can come from. I was just about to say
he
it.
needs
Big
to be careful. And really well played coming in from Big Coro. Gets the sneaky recall of the feathers right there, catching Caspiel off guard, and that will be the first blood. And it might even be the first turret, as KLH isn't in position to take this bottom lane turret. They've lost so much from that. And with that, that's going to be a huge gold swing in favor of Young Generation. 2,000 turret is now gone in the top lane. That's going to relieve so much pressure off this bottom lane. And first blood onto Big Coro is huge.
Mistakes were made down there in the bot lane. Caspiel not minding where the feathers, and Blade Caller absolutely shreds him. At that low health, he should not have tried anything. And Shiro as well, really behind in terms of CS, and that turret gold from the first tower of the game really puts him even more behind against Ren. And this very good timing for that first blood, and the gold boost to YG is that they get the Rift Herald for free even. So a lot of these objectives in the early game, YG absolutely takes it all.
Yeah, and all it took was just one mistake coming in from Caspiel in that bottom lane. I felt like they overcommitted a bit too hard trying to secure the kills. I think if they were content with just looking to push that turret, it would have gone a lot better for them. Instead, they get punished extremely hard. Turret, First Blood, and Rift Herald now gone and in favor of Young Generation.
That is tragic for the Kuala Lumpur Hunters. And do you think it might be part of the meta as well, going on to Caspiel? We've known him to be a very good Lee Sin player, likes these aggressive junglers that constantly invade, have the ability to duel the opposing jungler. Do you think this tank-centric meta is getting to him a little bit for this game?
I'd say it's a bit too early to really generalize Caspiel's playstyle right now, but I do have to admit that KLH just needs to refocus their mindset, as when you come into these higher levels of competitive play, every single mistake counts. And while you may be able to get away with it in your local respective regions, such as in the TLC, where the KLH Kuala Lumpur Hunters were pretty much undefeated in the regular season, when it comes to this level of competition, a lot of the mistakes that you could have gotten away with are no longer acceptable and will be punished. And we just saw that happen right there with Young Generation. Now 2,000 gold ahead.
Really small mistake. Just earning YG a lot of pressure and control over how the game is going. And Shiro so far still trying to survive at his top lane. Ren has all the time in the world to just constantly pressure him. He has all the sustain, he has the Rift Herald Eye just so he can just come back to lane constantly, and he also has a teleport, and since he's the one pushing Shiro in, he has the pressure for his top lane for the teleport play.
And something we haven't touched on much is the top lane. While Sejuani was investing so many resources in the bottom lane, it forced Shiro to play very defensively, knowing that the Rek'Sai was in the vicinity, knowing that he could be punished, and that's resulted in him being down roughly 30 CS now. And he's also down in item. The Black Cleaver already completed
for Ren, and that is going to be Naul trying to go for some kills here with Becky shooting him down, but that's going to be Becky taking a lot of turret shots. The Void Rush will go on, he flashes from it, and he's going to get stunned by the concussive blows. Pallet comes in for the assist, but that's still going to be a kill going to the Stana.
And that was really good initiative coming in from this Kuala Lumpur Hunter bot lane. Another play being made. R-Hedge, not quite there.
Yeah, flash for flash, but I do think it's more worth it that the flash on the Saya is actually gone now. For that's at least 4 minutes that there is no big, huge burst of mobility coming from that Saya. So that could be an opportunity for Caspiel and the rest of KLH to actually just take advantage of that, but of course that bot lane is still quite under control of YG, even with turret gone.
Yeah, and KLH looking unfazed so far, despite losing that early small skirmish, early macro decision. They have been constantly making those plays. We saw that happen in the mid lane, we saw that happen in the bot lane, and KLH now, it feels like they have the momentum right now. Aside from the top lane, they're doing a lot of proactive things on this map, and that's what you need to do to stay in this game.
And so far, it seems like very interesting shift here. Veki actually switching to the mid lane along with Bipolar, leaving R-Hedge and the bot side. Try and pressure that area. Ren and Big Toro right around the corner. R-Hedge is wary enough not to overextend, but it seems like they're using the pushing power of Veki to go for this mid lane put.
Yeah.
With the explosive shot, being able to pressure that turret.
It looks like they're going to be looking to pop that Rift Herald in the bottom lane.
Ooh,
they do indeed do so. So they're going for a two-pronged attack, looking to push this bottom turret at the same time applying lots of pressure in this middle lane.
It's going to be an easy turret kill for YG.
Yeah, they can continue this pressure right now, but the vision control isn't really there. And it looks like KLH are on top of that. 2 members, 3 members here, but this is going to be a 4v3, and that Rift Herald is still pretty healthy.
No Veki. They don't really have their AD carry for here. Caspiel as well, not in the vicinity. So this is going to be 3v4 if ever. Naul needs to be careful there in the mid lane. He can get dived by Caspiel. And Veki, it seems like they just go for the turret.
And that's a pretty smart play coming from KLH, not committing too much to that bottom lane push, not feeling threatened, and instead challenging Young Generation for the tempo and going mid instead. And I think that went in favor of KLH. Despite losing that bottom lane turret, they did have to use a Rift Herald for that turret, and mid lane turret is just so much more valuable. It opens so much of the map, and that should allow for a lot more roams, a lot more transitions between these lanes, as we do see already R-Hedge in that top lane looking to set up the next play.
Top lane will be the next target. It seems like Veki and Bipolar will continue shoving down this mid lane. Actually, Bipolar rotating to the top side to get some vision down, possibly. Teleport, sneaky teleport coming from Shiro from behind the top lane, so this might be a lot of trouble, but Caspiel actually already gets the kill against Big Koro. Now it's going to be Ren against 2, and it's going to be the teleport coming from Shiro to continue to chase. Here comes Becky. Buster shot over a wall, so it's just going to be a reset, but now that is 1 kill, another to KLH, making the gold lead almost inconsequential.
Yeah, and it looks like KLH are still committing to this top lane. However, they have sent Veki and Bipolar back to this middle lane, so they do need to be careful as they can be punished. And here comes the punish.
Pallet goes in with a quickness. That is a lot of CC, but Naul gets a lot of damage out, even with a Cataclysm. Naul still alive, regenerating a lot of health with the Twin Fangs on the poison. And that's a double kill to a real hard carry Naul.
Yeah, and looks like KLH doing their best to respond to this, trying to get this mid lane turret down. Is down to half HP. And this again goes back to what I was talking about extending too far, trying to be a bit too greedy in regards to what macro objectives you can take. They assumed they could take the top lane fine and they could pressure mid lane at the same time, but they got punished extremely hard. And Young Generation on top of that, seeing 2 members at mid. And that's just an easy engage.
Take away the really nice numbers advantage as well with Pallet with a really nice initiate there. Rakan so well at just taking people out by surprise and just CCing them, leaving them vulnerable to everything that the YG has to throw out.
Yeah, I think KLH needs to slow down a bit, and let's take a look at exactly what happened. the moment they see Tristan in the mid lane is the go signal. So they ping. So two members already in that mid lane. They have vision of them because of the minions, and Pallet just goes in, goes for the flash in, and that's a good cleanup right there.
Yeah, and even with a burst coming from the Jarvan, it's not enough actually to take out Naul, because all this time Shiro has been behind. If he was at least even, I think he would have gotten the kill against Naul, but there, Naul survives, gets a good amount of DPS out, and they win that fight. Double kill goes to hard carry.
I think if Arhedge was in a better position, it might have been a different story possibly, but in that case, Arhedge got picked out pretty fast in that fight, didn't have the shockwave either, and
very fast, the quickness there just charms him out, just leaves him vulnerable to everything. Ocean Drake will be the pickup for all for Hunters. Not the best Drakes coming out. The RNG not in KLH's favor in their Dragon control so far. But this will help them in their regeneration a little bit.
Yeah, should help a bit with the sustained push. And speaking of push, KLH already setting up for the next push, getting those deep wards in. They want to get this mid lane turret, as that is extremely low. Baron is up in a minute 30, and Noel pushing this top lane.
Very, very quickly at that. He has the blue buff, so he can do this all day. KLH will have to respond to this one way or another. That's going to be a pretty big wave building there. It seems like Arhedge and the rest of the squad will try converging. No, it's just going to be clearing the wave while Caspiel goes for some deep vision.
Yeah, and I mean, this game is just really close right now. If you take a look at the items, despite there's being a 1,000, roughly 2,000 gold lead in favor of young generations, the items say otherwise. The items are very similar. It doesn't really matter if you're up 2,000 gold, if your items that you have reflected, like if you have 2,000 gold but you haven't spent it on anything, then effectively you don't have that 2,000 gold, right? And that's the case right now. So anyone's game at this point.
Caspiel going for it. Caspiel is really, really thirsty for this Cassiopeia. Oh man, a shockwave misses, but Permafrost still going in. Becky jumps in for the kill. Gets turned into stone, but that's not enough to actually stop him.
Yeah, and I feel like young generation, they aren't being proactive enough if they want to win this game. If you have your mid laner split pushing that top lane, then you should be already looking to do something with the rest of your players. Instead, you had them recall, farm their jungle for some reason, and they just got punished. If they were in a proactive position, if they were playing with the proactive mindset, they might have been able to get this mid lane turret, seeing 4 members of KLH rotate top. Instead, they just lose a free kill, and that's Noel dead with another kill towards Becky's name. Already has that static shift.
And really unfortunate that Cleanse was still on cooldown in the collapse, but I don't think it would have helped too much. That was 4 members wailing on you, just really hungry to dive you. And that's true. If they were more proactive, they would have just converged, left Naul for dead in the top lane while taking an objective there in the mid lane. That would have at least forced KLH to make a decision after making that trade, but instead they're just able to recall, get that payoff from that kill. Still, they weren't able to get a top lane turret, but the kill is a kill, and they did go to an important carry, which is Veki.
Yeah, and now with the Baron buff up, this does change the dynamic of the map by quite a bit. A lot of teams will be looking to make plays around this Baron, ensuring that they don't concede any positional advantage, where they like put themselves in a position where they lose this Baron, and at the same time they want to secure the Baron for themselves. And we can already see the case. Lots of wards going down already.
They're really trying to contest the area with vision, with wards. And they have to be really careful, because even though it's only 21 minutes, there can be a real risk for a Baron pickup if one side is way too distracted. We saw this in Game 1 as Team Manila Eagles just snuck away with that Baron buff really, really close. So they will have to time that very, very nicely. But for now, control is really all that they want around this area of the map. Yeah, even if they don't get the Baron directly, the vision, the information that you get from that is really important.
Yeah, compared to the first game, this is a lot more slow-paced. The Baron was already taken at this point in the Game 1. So both of these teams playing a lot more safely, a lot more calculated, ensuring that every single play they do counts. And here's the next play, that top lane looking
They're going to go down. Naul, still the one defending that. It's almost going to be taken down, but now he's no longer alone. Pallet around the corner. Caspiel is going to be found alone, but he's quite tanky. Pallet deals absolutely no damage. After all, he is a Rakan. And Naul does not want to commit too much to scaring him away. And I think this is going to be KLH picking up the top lane turret finally. They've been wanting that for forever.
Yeah, and it's finally down. But we do see that young generation are looking to take this mid lane in response. Looks like Kuala Lumpur Hunters are just going to leave RH to do that by himself now. And if you take a look at the gold lead right now, we can see that the gold advantage is primarily on Becky. Becky has a 1,000 gold lead. Meanwhile, we do see in the top lane that there's a 1,000 gold lead to this Renekton, and resulting in a very even game.
So far, very, very even. The turret control close as well. KLH has opened up the mid lane, however, which is a lot more value in terms of what you can do by rotating around the map. Ren, waiting around the wings, maybe can do something against Shiro to counter the push that he's pulling out. But so far, KLH, very, very calm. Both teams actually very collected about how this game is going, not letting any mistakes from the from before phase.
Yeah, but I think this might be the moment where KLH starts to pull the trigger. If we take a look at the items, we did see that the Knight's Vow was just completed by Caspiel and the QSS was picked up by Veki. So that is a lot of power in this AD carry right now and a lot of opportunities for KLH.
Does have his attack speed item and his IE, and I think the next big fight has to be centered around that Mountain Drake. After that, after Cloud Drake and Ocean Drake, Mountain Drake is definitely an advantage that these teams will want to pick up. And it seems like KLH is really focusing on the control around that area for now.
Yeah, 10 seconds till Dragon spawns. However, they do need to be careful. They have conceded a lot of vision control on this Baron Pit, and we do see 5 members.
Be careful. That is Big Koro and Naul, possibly. They are starting it, and they are doing it actually very, very quickly for 24 minutes. That is the power of the Cassiopeia. Bipolar right around the corner, but there's no response comes from Caspiel just yet. He can have a chance, but Red Team, wow, KLH actually steals the Baron. Here comes Palace go in with a quickness, but Becky's still going on to them. Buster Shot to try and save himself, actually succeeds. RH now in for the assist, but now it's going to be Shiro trying to go for something here. He is being taken down, gets bursted down by Venus, and now it's going to be KLH with 3 Barons. I think they have to just escape from this, happy with the prize that they got.
Yeah, for sure. Even though that was a 2 for 0, that Baron buff is definitely worth it. And with that, they should be able to push down this mid lane turret. There's not much that young generation can do. A lot of cooldowns already burnt, and that mid turret does indeed fall down.
Oh, that's a huge shockwave. The follow-up is there. Veki goes in with a rocket jump, and they're just going to keep going for it. Rocket jump, chains over and over. Triple kill might be going for this Veki, and he does get it, which opens up even more opportunities for KLH.
And really well played coming in from RH. Really good smite.
Now it's going to be Ren, the target of the fight. He's going to get slaughtered here. You're going to have Crocodile for dinner, it seems. He jumps over with the rocket jump. Resets it with explosive shot, and now this is going to be Baron up. 5 members dead. I don't think Pal is going to be enough to defend this. This is going to be Veki, RH, and Bipolar playing it well and taking away this mid lane inhibitor turret, maybe even the inhibitor itself. Big Koro 5 seconds away, not fast enough, and KLH goes home with a huge prize and a 5k gold lead.
Yeah, and I mean,
just in time for Mountain Drake.
That was such a quick turn of events. It was extremely slow paced, and all of a sudden explodes with that Baron play. Look at how Caspiel comes in, steals the Baron. Really good stun and lockup actually coming in from both Shiro and Bipolar right there, not allowing Venus to burst it properly and get that smite down. And with that, you have the enhanced stats from the Baron buff. I think it contributed quite a bit to this team fight.
Yeah. The extra damage that you get from the extra stats that you get really helped out here. Veki survives, and I think that was really important to how everything went down. The heal was popped, the shield, the command protect actually helped him survive as well. And Mountain Drake is going to help their future pushes be even more potent.
Yeah, I mean, that Baron buff is still up on 3 members, so they can continue to push right now if they do decide to do so. 5,000 gold lead, we do see that a lot of items have been purchased, and let's take
another
a look at
replay.
The shockwave, man.
Yeah, this is where they just pull the trigger, and as soon as they all group up together, they just annihilate them. Of course, the timing for everything wasn't ideal, but it was enough for Veki to start jumping around with the resets.
Yeah, once the Tristana gets going, it's really hard to stop. And with that, Tristana
6-0
right now
has a really good item spike, and I think that the weakest part of the game for Tristana is just overlooked now that that she has 3 items in the last Whisper. QSS as well to prevent any sort of CC lock come from Naul or Ren.
Yeah, and I mean at level 14 as well, the passive is there, so she does have the extra range, and that should be enough at this point to just make sure she's away from harm's reach to Braum with
Zoraveki going for Ren, not even afraid to go in melee against this Crocodile, just completely cut him up.
Yeah, and pretty interesting to see what Ren was doing so far extended up while the rest of the team was back in base, while there were no vision on the map.
He didn't have any pressure, and he was pushing on his own. Really easy target for Veki here, and this is going to give them even more opportunities to push this top lane second-tier turret, and it's already at half health, so the explosive charge will just completely annihilate this.
And we do see that Rek'Sai is actually opting to push this bottom lane Orianna all the way in the mid lane. That's going to be a great
shockwave. Pallet actually gets taken down. That's going to start the rocket jump chain. Now tries to run away, slither away, but all that CC comes from Sejuani, and the Braum will just be too much. Veki still pushing this very, very quickly. Venus, I think, regrets the decision to push that bot lane.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know what Orianna and Rek'Sai were doing, still pushing the lanes while knowing that KLH was coming to this push, and this could be the game if they are not careful. That's
Veki has the range, the red buff as well to continue pushing down these turrets. And as you know, Nexus turrets are way weaker individually, and he's just chopping them up. Naul still 15 seconds. Teleport comes from Shiro to help out with his 4v4 bipolar. Now the front line is available for KLH, and I think they're just going to take away the turrets. Naul will be up in 8 seconds, but is that enough time? YG takes away the kill from Caspiel, but Veki is just popping off, completely killing everyone. Pallet is the next target, and Naul tries to go on to Veki. So it's going to be just a reset of the fight, but still, that's a lot of health loss for YG. They have to be very careful on how they play the next few seconds of this game. But now it's going to be KLH closing in with a super minion wave. And a quick shot, rapid fire comes from Veki. Seems like it will just be enough to close out the game. Game 2 for the Garena Premier League. Summer 2017 goes to Kuala Lumpur Hunters from Malaysia.
And all it took was just one Baron to end the game. If you take the time between the Baron and the end of the game, it was like 3 minutes,
and
4 minutes.
It's really interesting how it was just so slow at the beginning, but when these big objectives started appearing on the map, Mountain Drake, Baron, it just escalated so quickly and all culminated in those huge boosts in power come from Kuala Lumpur Hunters. But it was well fought by YG.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure YG is kicking themselves right now. To lose the game in such that sort of fashion is not something you want to do.
It's a lot of throws there.
Prior to that Baron, but prior to that Baron throw, like the Baron throw is just extremely demoralizing. And
and then Ren started pushing on his own, which actually allowed them to just KLH to just push the top lane because YG no longer had a frontliner.
I think after that Baron fight, they got somewhat tilted after that. And hopefully it doesn't affect them coming into the rest of the games, as this is a double round robin. That's a lot of games to be played, 10 games in total.
That is a lot, and it's enough time. 2 games should be enough time at this level of pro play to actually formulate a response to what the other team did to you last time. So, of course, after that explosive game, congratulations KLH on their first win for the GPL 2017 Summer. We've been your shoutcasters for that last game. I'm Atlas. With me was Neep, and we'll be seeing you after break for the next games, Indonesia's Headhunters versus Singapore's Resurgence. We'll be seeing the quickness. That is a lot of CC, but Naul gets a lot of damage out, even with a Cataclysm. Naul still alive, regenerating a lot of health with the Twin Fangs on the poison. That's a double kill. But Red Team, wow, KLH actually steals the Baron. Here comes Pallet to go in with a quickness, but Veki's still going on to them. Buster Shot to try and save himself, actually succeeds. Arhedge now in for the assist. But now it's going to be Shiro trying to go for something here. He's just being taken down, gets bursted down by Venus, and now it's going to be KLH. Veki goes in with a rocket jump, and they're just going to keep going for it. Rocket jump, chains over and over, triple kill. Might be going for this Veki, and he does get it, which opens up. Rapid fire comes from Veki. It seems like it will just be enough to close out the game. Game 2 for the Garena Premier League. Summer 2017 goes to Kuala Lumpur Hunters from Malaysia.